It's as simple as putting your card in and taking it out, and thieves have all your personal information. Oklahoma health officials say look for insect repellent that contains 10 to 35% DEET, and if it has a little bit more, that's okay too. An Ardmore family is finally speaking up after Eric Tompkins was fatally shot by police Sunday morning. A pat-down consists of searching the body from head to toe, and now using a wand for underneath Band-Aids. The city of Maysville hasn't had its own ambulance service for more than 20 years, and now that they found one, they're having trouble getting a license for it.
It's a difference between life and death.
John Williams' family owned Maysville's ambulance service until the late 80s when the city of Lindsay took over.
If there is an emergency, they're there for us, and we appreciate that. But there's nothing like having an ambulance here in your town.
That's why Maysville wants to sign up with a company called EMS Plus.
They're going to come in here cheaper for the citizens. It's a better thing for my town. I don't have to wait 20 minutes on an ambulance.
We're going to have an ambulance in town staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we're going to try to bring that down to a 1 to 5 minute response time.
EMS Plus was supposed to start on Monday, but surrounding cities haven't signed a mutual aid agreement to allow the service to operate.
We've presented it to the towns yet. We haven't talked to one yet, and it's up to them to sign them.
And there's some things that have to happen for us to be able to get that license, and that's where we're running into the snags with the surrounding communities.
But Lindsay City Manager John Noblett says what Maysville wants would violate state law, and they're not signing off.
Municipalities cannot enter into interlocal agreements with private corporations.
In the meantime, residents in Maysville are left without any ambulance service. Town leaders plan to appeal to state regulators in hopes of getting a waiver to bypass the other towns.
About every third trip, I catch the railroad, the train across the track, and you have to sit there for 30 or 45 minutes.
Ravia residents are fed up with BNSF trains getting stuck on the tracks over Highway 22. It happens about 3 times a day and can't be moved until the railroad company is contacted.
Seems like it's the last 3 or 4 years, this has gotten worse.
Residents say there have been instances where they have waited in their cars up to an hour just for the train to get across the tracks.
Our first call come in just a little bit after 12:20, 12:15. The train was sitting on the tracks in. The second call come in a little after 1, and the train was still sitting on the tracks.
Fire Chief Curtis Parker says just this week, a stopped train caused a 15-minute delay for an ambulance to get to a wreck.
You know, you look at every second counts in life and death situations.
Instead of the train company getting the brunt of complaints, Sheriff John Smith said deputies are the recipients of people's anger.
So that's a big issue for us. They're not only tying up phone lines for emergencies, it's really frustrating to our dispatch personnel when they have to hear something when it's really nothing they can do about it.
City officials say they have reached out to the train company, but the only thing they can do is keep calling and requesting that the trains be moved.
There are no regulations regarding trains blocking crossings.
Smith says moving the train isn't that easy. You can break other federal laws while doing so. Homeowners of this house behind me say they hired a local contractor to remodel the outside of their home, but the house ended up looking worse than where it started.
Nothing that he done was done correct.
Tammy Irons has lived in her home in Davis for 6 years. Last winter, she decided she wanted to remodel.
Talked to several contractors, and they were all busy, couldn't do it. And I seen his ad in the paper and called, and him and his wife came the next day.
Triple G Roofing in Davis, owned by Jerry Bill G. Jr., seemed to be the answer to her problems.
He gave me some references, but they were all on roofs, and they did look good.
A contract was signed in February, and G would begin work in May. By June 8th, G was nowhere to be found, and Iron's house was 2/3 incomplete.
I called and texted several times, and he wouldn't reply.
He started the project and never finished it.
Irons says she paid G more than $15,000 and was left with a sagging roof, only one of 12 windows installed, incomplete siding, and a mess in her backyard.
His wife told me I wasn't giving any of my money back.
Davis police say G was arrested and charged last Monday.
We're looking at embezzlement and home repair fraud.
Irons says she's happy he's being held accountable for his actions, but her biggest concern now is the upcoming winter.
On the windows, all we have is tar paper keeping the flies and stuff out, but it's not going to keep the cold out.
The homeowners say right now they can't afford another contractor, but in the meantime, they'll have to fix some of these issues themselves. In Davis, Leah Johnson, News 12.
I think that nobody should steal from God's house. It says to give back to God's house, not take away from.
It apparently wasn't too hot nor too sacred for whoever destroyed this church's air conditioning unit. It happened sometime between Wednesday night and Sunday morning at the Enos House of Prayer off Lark and Shell Road.
It was really hot in the church, and when we went outside, our air conditioning unit was gone.
This is all that is left of this church's AC unit. Thieves made away with the copper that is found inside.
Our biggest problem with the air conditioning unit being gone is it was in the area where our children learned.
Pastor Doug Tyner said temperatures reached more than 90 degrees in the back room used for children's Sunday school, so they've had to cancel classes for the time being. He says the copper would have only been worth $20 or $30, but replacing the unit will cost the church about $6,000, something the church's 50 members just can't afford.
We will probably have to start a fundraiser.
But through it all, the church says they have no hard feelings.
We hope that in the long run, it turns out to be a blessing in their lives.
In fact, they've already forgiven those responsible.
A thief hung on the cross beside Jesus Christ and asked for forgiveness, and he forgave him that very day.
Whoever did it, I just hope that they've learned their lesson and that they've asked for forgiveness.
In Enos, Ringling's Mitchell Ritter won the Archery in Schools Middle School World Championship last weekend.
There's been a lot of national champions from Oklahoma, but for him to go and compete in the world championship and be a world champion, that's just, kind of the pinnacle of everything that you shoot for.
14-year-old Ritter started archery in 4th grade.
Thought it would be just neat, just why not do something else? I like to do everything I can.
5 years later, he's now talking Olympics.
I want to try to get into the Junior Olympics.
Ritter holds several other state and national titles and says it took a lot to get where he is today.
I practiced a lot. I'd go up here and shoot after school, and then after that I'd go home and shoot in the backyard till it turned dark.
And with all he's achieved, some still don't think archery is a sport.
It's not something that goes back and forth between two teams for like a game, but really kind of is.
There's just as much competition and training and a lot more mental aspect.
Ritter isn't sure what he wants to be when he grows up, but for younger Ringling students, he is an example of what they hope to be.
It inspires our young people, to understand that even from a small area, they can do something very, very, successful.
In Ringling, Leah Johnson, News 12. Pauls Valley Police say this convenience store right behind me and 2 others failed to properly check IDs and sold beer to minors.
It's good that we try to prevent at least some substance getting into the hands of people who can't control it, and certainly young people cannot.
Concerned parents and community members prompted police to coordinate a compliance check last Friday.
We had numerous complaints coming in from the community and parents stating that there were some convenience stores in town that were possibly selling low point beer to minors,
leading police to 3 stores that sold beer to an undercover minor.
We hit all 13 convenience stores in town, to include Walmart and Homeland.
Chief Mitch McGill says Leonard Superstop, Love's Travel Stop, and Chisholm Corner Gas Station failed the check, and the employees working were immediately given a citation.
Proactively combat that, because obviously we do not want alcohol in the hands of our children.
Alpha Elkins works next door to Leonard Superstop at a liquor store owned by the same company. She says in 44 years, this is the first time either store has had this issue.
They're told that, if they sell to a minor, first thing, they will probably get a fine from the police. Second of all, they will lose their job. And it's unfortunate that the person that was working Friday night did not check the ID.
Elkins says from here on, she will emphasize to her employees the penalties of selling alcohol to minors.
It's a pretty stiff penalty, so that would be a deterrent, I would think, to whoever's working, to be sure they check those IDs.
Police say if the store employee is convicted, he or she can face fines up to $549. In Pauls Valley, Leah Johnson, News 12.